Welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin, here with you on Enlightened World Network, and today's topic is the Law of Three. The Law of Three is taking polarities and creating a reconciliation at a higher level, and it's really a shift of paradigm from competition to collaboration and coordination and harmony. So it should be an interesting conversation. But before we get started, let's just take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop, and allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome. Good morning, Rosalind. So good to have you here with us this morning, and welcome to everybody else who's joining us. Today we're talking about the law of three, which I like to think of sort of as practical magic. Magic because it opens up the unexpected, the impossible in so many ways. And this is a framework, I don't know, that may have been popularized by Carol Sanford, but it is a foundational principle in the work of an organization called Regenesis, which works with regenerative development and design. And we're just going to chat about how this works and how we can bring it into our daily lives. One of the things that we are very conditioned to is the notion of negotiation. And when we negotiate something, typically it's a win-lose, or even maybe more commonly a lose-lose situation where both sides are giving up something that they value, where both sides go away somewhat unhappy. And how crazy is it that we create that as a positive standard, right? Not so. So there's a quote from Einstein that goes something like, you can't solve a problem from the level in which it arose. In other words, you need to go to a higher level. And that's essentially what the law of three works with. So with the law of three, you have an activating force and a restraining force. So there's our polarity. The activating force is the desire, for instance, to do something. I want to do X, Y, and Z. The restraining force are the factors at play that are inhibiting that possibility. So I want to do this, but I don't have enough money, for instance. The I want to do is the activating force, the not enough funds is the restraining force, for example. Or if we're looking more in for instance, projects, the activating force and the restraining force are kind of creating a friction or an energy of opposition in a way. So this conversation is originating from a conversation that I had with a dear friend who is a big mover and shaker in the green building and regenerative building and development, or development and design arena, named Bill Reed, who's just been a remarkable change maker in this arena of, it's not just ecological design and development, but in a broader context, having humans be an integral part of the life of the fruitful life of an environmental system. So an example that he gave, so the law of three helps us to reconcile irreconcilable forces, seemingly irreconcilable forces, by jumping to this new level. And an example that he gave was of a project in Chile where there was a developer who wanted to, if I'm getting it right, who wanted to develop a big area of buildings that would be for mixed use buildings. And there were 25 activist groups that were opposing this, that in fact they were so deeply opposed to this this builder and the project that they called the builder the enemy. And the way that this situation was resolved, rather than by having each side make concessions to the other, was to find a place where these different factions actually aligned in their mission. And we speak a lot of the power of purpose and how that purpose allows us to move beyond our individual limitations, calls us into expression of our potential. Good morning. Good morning. I'm presuming that's Sue. Welcome. So good to have you with us. And you actually typed God morning, so I'll take that too. I think that's awesome. So this ability to move to a higher level was to find common ground. So one of the things when we're working with personal conflict is to look at a higher level of values until we can find a place where we meet, where we're in alignment. We may have very different ideas about implementation related to those values, but we can often find a commonality of values. So in this particular situation, all the groups, including the developer, were intending to better this city that was essentially dying, that had been a gem and was now dying. So Sue says, I seek to find values I'm in alignment with. That's such a good conversation. The discovery of our values. and I'll come back around to that, but I want to talk about this scenario here. So all of these groups had a commitment to bettering the city, to the life of the city. And what happened was, over a period of time, trust was established to be able to create a space or a field for communication, for real communication, to be connecting with each other, with the deepest intentions, with the deepest values that were collectively held, to be able to start looking beyond the horizon of the individual beliefs and siloed interests of all the separate groups, to look at something bigger than themselves, to create an alignment around a higher purpose, which was to revive the city and to bring back its essence, to bring back its innate vitality. And it's through that alignment, with that commitment, that communication was established, where people could actually share their varied viewpoints and collaborate and contribute collectively to each other and to the shared mission and vision. So what happened is there were these polarities, or the appearance of polarities initially, and then the reconciliation, the harmonizing, which is what it's about. The harmonizing was achieved by finding a higher commitment. So I'm not any longer committed to my particular beliefs and my values, but I'm in service to a greater purpose. So Sue said, I seek to find values that I'm in alignment with. I think the truth is that we all live according to values. It's just that they're not necessarily visible. And one of the things that I do with clients is a values hierarchy, essentially an exploration of our primary values and how they fit within a hierarchy. And when we do this, because oftentimes our values are invisible to us, because oftentimes we don't even recognize what our values are, we often can create confusion for ourselves because we don't have that North Star that is something in our conscious awareness. So the way that I go about supporting people in finding their values that they're in alignment with, there are multiple ways. One way is to look at the decisions you make in life and why, what it is that's guiding those decisions. But the way that I go about it with folks is using a card deck that I put together called the Core Connection Values Cards. If you're at all interested, you can find them on my website at yourcoreconnection.com under the cards tab. The thing, you don't need to buy those cards. There are lists online, actually, of values to do a value inventory from. And the process that we go through whether it's the cards or whether it's a list, is to go through and eliminate the values that don't resonate with you, because there are going to be values that just, they're not priorities. So it doesn't mean that you don't resonate, for instance, with honesty as a value, but it may be so deeply ingrained, or so, so it might just be assumed, so that maybe it's not one of those that stands out as the values that you wouldn't be you without. So in going through a list of like 124 values, and there are lists that are even longer than that, what you want to do is whittle them down to ultimately maybe anywhere from 4 to 8 values, foundational values, that you would not be you without. Values that resonate into your very core. And then what you want to do, one of the ways actually to whittle those down is that you might find that there are categories or clusters of very similar values. So, for instance, presence, consciousness, awakening, you get the idea. Those kinds of values might all be under one cluster, and one of those words is representative of the others for you. So once you've reduced these values, and what I've noticed also is that there's often one umbrella word that is the primary for all of them. So for me, it's consciousness or awakening. Okay. And under that comes, thank you, Sue. Thank you so much. Sue put the link to the cards in the chat. Now, you might find that there's some values that are missing. That's okay. You can add them. Don't feel constrained. Okay. You don't feel constrained by the fact that something's missing. You can add it. They're so loud, aren't they? The birds. Oh my gosh. I just fed them before we started. So they do this all the time. It's so funny, where they just sort of holler at each other. Anyway, so once you have the values, then you want to create a hierarchy. And the hierarchy is important because the hierarchy will help to illustrate for you a decision-making strategy. So for me, consciousness, freedom, creativity, those are 3, beauty, 4 of my top values. And when I know that I need freedom and I need creativity, that would make it very clear for me that I'm not going to put myself in a job that would be repetitive, that would be rigorously overseen by somebody else. Because I know what my values are, I would die in that kind of situation. If I didn't have an ability to express my creativity, if I didn't have a sense of freedom, it would just suck the life out of me. So this is where knowing your values, like really having a conscious connection to your values, can make a tremendous difference in helping decide major things in our lives. So when we are working with the law of three, to come back to that notion, we can even do this, utilize that framework in our interactions, in our interpersonal reactions, and even in our self-management. But here's an example: is somebody was helping me to move and was getting was very, very focused on the doing part of the moving, without recognizing the impact that that was having on my being. And the intention was to help me, right? So bringing this person present to what it looks like to help me has the potential to create a greater reconciliation where we both are aligned in our intentions, and allowing that alignment to influence the implementation. So I encourage you to look at situations in your life where there may be conflict, there may be challenge, and look at how you might come into an alignment with the other person. And so the thing about this framework is that it dissolves the othering. That's the beauty of it. That's the magic of it, is it's a radical shift in paradigm from our competition, separation, domination kind of win-lose culture into collaboration, companionship, cooperation, collective, right? Unity, to recognize where we are one rather than to be focused on our separation, competition, domination, all of that. And it's interesting to me to note that we use these tactics of separation, domination, power control, etc., with ourselves, even, where we insist upon pushing through to get something done rather than looking at a bigger system of integrity, integration, and the importance of being, the being state. So how are we as we're doing this thing? If we push ourselves over the edge of exhaustion, how is that ultimately serving? We may have gotten the thing done, but at what cost? And then we need to recover, rather than paying attention to creating harmony throughout, right? It sounds probably very counterintuitive because it's very different from the way our culture operates, where our culture is very focused on doing, and our value is measured in so many ways by doing. rather than being, how we're being. But the how we're being can be way more far reaching than the doing. With this person helping me move the being state, because they were so busy doing, the cost of the being state threatened the relationship. And that's really quite counterproductive. You know, efficiency at what cost? And we've spoken about this too. So our being state is an essential factor in being able to reach to this next level. It's actually a quantum leap. It's practical magic, like to get away from something that was absolutely polarized and irreconcilable to creating a harmony. And we can do that when we recognize there's an activating force, the desire, the restraining force, the constraints. And then to be with that discomfort, it's uncomfortable when there's this polarity happening, but there's a lot of energy there. And if we think about quantum physics, we know that electrons operate at a certain level. There's energy that's input and input and input until we get to another level of consciousness, or another level, another energy state. And so being with that irreconcilable problem, so to speak, can then catapult us to another dimension of awareness. So that's it for today. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to please like, follow, and share Enlightened World Network and me. The links are in the description. And as always, it's a deep, deep pleasure and privilege to have the opportunity to spend these morning moments musing together over what it is to be human. So until next time, so much love to you.